I knew something was rotten when I found the bleach bucket filled with lemon water and wishful thinking. That bucket was supposed to be prepped with proper the sanitizing solution, measured, logged, signed, and time-stamped. Instead, it smelled like citrus-scented lies and managerial neglect. And the kicker? My name was on the damn clipboard next to it, like I'd signed off on that bacterial tea party myself. 12 years. 12 damn years of spotless records, passing every joint commission check like clockwork. Never a single patient sick on my watch, and I've worked through busted dishwashers, norovirus outbreaks, and one power outage that turned the walk-in freezer into a meat sauna. I don't panic. I clean. I log. I keep this place running while everyone else runs their mouths. That morning, I clocked in at 6:03 a.m., so 3 minutes late because my husband forgot to tell me he took the car to get an oil change. No matter. I still made it to the tray line before anyone noticed. I was halfway through checking the cold items when Megan strolled in wearing heels that cost more than my weekly paycheck, and that smug look of someone who thinks Pinterest is a credential. Megan's the new food service supervisor. Energetic, the director called her. She's here to streamline things. Sure, and raccoons are here to improve garbage logistics. She floated past me with a fake smile, and her tablet tapping away like she was programming a satellite. I watched her type something, pauses, then say, "Let's make sure the gluten-free tags match the tray tickets today, okay? We had some inconsistencies last week." Inconsistencies, my ass. I'd flagged those issues already, in writing on the report I emailed her. The same one she printed and brought to the director like it was her epiphany. She stole my notes, reformatted them, passed them off like they came from her divine brainstorm, and she wasn't subtle about it. I'd heard her in the break room telling another manager, "We've made some major progress since I came on board." That we was doing a whole lot of heavy lifting. And hey, if you're still listening and haven't hit that little subscribe button yet, maybe do that now. I know 95% of folks just ride along without subscribing. It really helps the team keep dishing these stories out. Throw a like on it too, if you're feeling generous. It's cheaper than therapy and keeps the rage simmering in all the right places. Jeez. Anyway, back to Megan's progress. She started asking questions that made no sense unless you'd never worked a kitchen in your life, like, why do we prep allergen trays separately? Can't we just mark them? I had to explain cross-contamination to her like she was 5. I even offered to walk her through the allergen station protocols. Gloves, labels, tray segregation, all of it. She smiled like I was offering to show her how spoons worked and said, "Thanks, but I've got my own system." She didn't. Her system was Vibes and Google Docs. Soon after, I noticed her standing behind the diet clerk's desk, jotting things down. She walked off with a printout of my patient satisfaction chart, one I update weekly with real data from feedback cards. The next day, that chart was in her morning briefing with the director, complete with her own initials scrawled at the bottom. No mention of me. That's when the mood started to shift. People began reporting directly to her instead of me, even though I trained half of them. She scheduled meetings during peak tray line hours, forcing me to choose between showing up or keeping the food moving. She forgot to copy me on the new menu changes. I found out we were switching suppliers because the invoice was accidentally sent to my inbox. When I asked her about it, she blinked like a deer in corporate headlights and said, "Oh, I thought I told you." She didn't. She never did. That was the point. I kept my mouth shut for a while. You don't survive 12 years in hospital kitchens without learning when to keep your head down and when to throw the damn tray. But I started documenting. Not because I was scared. Because I was tired. Tired of people like Megan who think a title makes them competent. Tired of being erased by someone who couldn't tell a foodborne outbreak from a sneeze. Then came the clipboard, the forged signature, the bucket of lemon-scented lies. That's when I knew we weren't playing the same game anymore. Megan was willing to put patients at risk just to fluff up her report for corporate. She thought I'd stay quiet. Nah. Karen's apron may be stained, but it ain't spineless. It was a Tuesday. Not that the day mattered. It just happened to be the kind of Tuesday where the ceiling tiles is sweat, the air vents hum like dying bees, and you can smell the overcooked broccoli 3 wings away. I just finished relabeling the dairy-free options because Megan's new labeling system involved cute emojis instead of actual allergen codes and was doing a once-over of the daily sanitation logs before heading to the break room for 5 minutes of lukewarm coffee and pretending I didn't have plantar fasciitis. That's when I saw it. The report. It was stapled to the daily compliance packet in the HR inbox, like it belonged there. Standard Joint Commission safety audit, food temps, sanitizer levels, allergen protocol compliance, all initialed, all perfect, and all supposedly signed by me. My name at the bottom next to a timestamp from last Friday at 3:47 p.m. Thing is, I left early last Friday. First time in months. My husband's blood pressure had spiked, and I dipped out with permission. Megan had waved goodbye with that tight-lipped Stepford smile of hers, like she was performing goodwill for an invisible camera crew. I stared at the signature. It was close. Real close. Sloppy enough that someone unfamiliar wouldn't notice, but I've signed that sheet 1,000 times. My R is sharp with a loop. This one looked like it had a stroke halfway through the K. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I just stood there staring at my name wearing someone else's handwriting. Like a Halloween mask. Worse, the report cleared an issue I had very specifically not cleared. The Friday tray line had been contaminated. One of the temps on the roast beef tray came back below safe threshold. We'd already served 12 trays by the time it flagged. I documented it, marked the log as incomplete, and wrote "Manager Review Pending" in bright red Sharpie. Megan said she'd take it from there. Apparently, take it from there meant laundering the report through my forged name and pushing it to HR like the beef never happened. I took the packet and walked straight to Megan's office. She was perched at her desk, like a parrot with a keyboard, one foot tucked under her butt, and her screen pulled up to Pinterest. Something about autumn-themed wellness bowls. I held up the paper. "This your idea of problem-solving?" I asked. Calm, measured. Just enough edge to cut. She blinked at me, fake confused. "What do you mean? You know damn well I didn't sign this, and that tray line wasn't cleared." Her eyes flicked to the page like she'd never seen it before. "Huh, well, it's already submitted, so just do your job, Karen. You'll be fine." Written off like that. Cold, flat, like I was the problem. Like her forged signature and falsified report were just minor wrinkles in the aesthetic of her career ladder. "Excuse me?" I said, still not yelling. I don't yell. You don't need to when the truth's doing push-ups in your hand. Megan rolled her eyes. You're blowing this out of proportion. If we flagged every minor deviation, we'd never get anything done. The director expects results. Just keep the food hot and the forms filled. Simple. She turned back to her screen. That was it. The whole conversation. My years of training, my spotless record, my careful protocol, all dismissed like a sticky note she didn't like the color of. I walked out and stood in the hallway for a full minute. The hum of the fluorescent lights felt louder than usual. I could feel something cracking deep, not loud. Betrayal doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's a clipboard with your name on it. Sometimes it's broccoli steam and silence. Later that afternoon, during prep, I saw Megan laughing with the administrative intern. They were looking at the new badge access reports, planning kitchen rotations like it was some kind of sorority mixer. She spotted me and gave a thumbs up. We're going to have a great fall, she chirped. I smiled back, just a little. The kind of smile you wear to a funeral when you already know who dug the grave. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to threaten lawsuits or stage a walkout with a picket sign made from soup lids and resentment. All I needed was one sauce cup and a little strategic negligence. Let me be real clear. No one got hurt. That's the line I never cross, not after what happened back in '09 when a new hire mistook almond milk for soy and nearly sent a kid to the ICU. I still wake up some nights hearing the wheels of that emergency gurney. So when I say I engineered a mistake, I mean it was designed like a loaded prop in a play. It looked dangerous, but the safety was on the whole damn time. Here's what I did. It was Meatloaf Monday, which meant mashed potatoes, green beans boiled into submission, and one sad scoop of brown sludge they call gravy. But Megan wanted to spice things up. She'd recently introduced international sauce rotations, an idiotic attempt to bring flair to the tray line without actually checking for allergens. That day's sauce? Thai-style peanut glaze from a vendor I didn't vet. No allergen documentation attached. Just a smiley face, drawn on the lid. So I made sure only 2 trays got the peanut glaze. Both clearly marked, double-checked, destined for patients without any dietary restrictions. I didn't update the main tray line ticket. I let the sauce roll through unlabeled. Just enough. Just enough for a tray runner to pause mid-delivery and say, "Wait, I thought 3B was nut-free." Just enough for the dietitian to raise an eyebrow and check the patient's chart. Just enough for the incident report to be filed, not as a sentinel event, but as a near miss. I was paged to HR that afternoon. Not the director, not the kitchen lead, HR. The big guns. I walked in with my hair tied back, apron still wet, and hands that smelled like industrial soap and quiet rebellion. The HR rep, Monica, sat me down. She had the kind of voice that's been trained in seminars about de-escalation techniques and conflict-neutral phrasing. She slid the report across the table. There was an issue with tray labeling today. I nodded. There was. Monica blinked. Do you have anything you'd like to add? I leaned back, just slightly. I'd like to know if our allergen protocols are still in effect, or if they've been replaced by Megan's Pinterest board. That's when Megan burst through the door. She was already mid-sentence, trying to outrun the narrative. I've been meaning to revise the training procedures. But Karen's been so off lately, it's hard to keep up. Monica frowned. Off? She's slipping, Megan said with the forced concern of someone auditioning for the role of worried boss in a low-budget soap. She's missing label updates, second-guessing instructions, and honestly, she's been resistant to the changes we're implementing. I didn't interrupt. Just let her keep digging. Her words sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced them in the mirror while adjusting her blouse collar. She's been here 12 years, Megan continued. But maybe that's part of the problem. Too stuck in her ways to evolve. I met Monica's eyes. Are we discussing patient safety? Or my adaptability score? Monica looked between us like she just realized she was in the middle of a forest fire holding a juice box. I stood slowly. If you'd like, I can walk you through the full protocol. Show you the logs, the original source packet, the updated rotation sheet I never received. No need, Megan said quickly. We'll just issue a retraining memo. She was sweating, actually sweating. HR noticed. I know they did, but they didn't say a word. I left that office with no write-up, no official reprimand, just a vague reminder email about labeling best practices. But something had shifted. Megan started watching me like a hawk with a nicotine patch, hovering during meal prep, second-guessing temperatures I'd logged correctly, asking my staff to CC her on everything. She knew I'd made the move, she just couldn't prove it. But I'd planted the seed, a tiny, tick-sized doubt in HR's otherwise blissfully oblivious head. She's slipping, Megan had said. Yeah, slipping out of checkmate right under her manicured nose. It happened fast, too fast for it not to have been premeditated. That night, Megan called a quick staff huddle right as we were wrapping up dinner service. Everyone was still elbow-deep in cleanup, steam rising from the dish pit. The faint reek of tuna casserole clinging to the air like regret. I was finishing my final allergen log for the evening when she clapped her hands like we were a preschool class lining up for snack time. Hey everyone, she chirped, high on the power of her own clipboard. I've made a few changes to streamline efficiency and improve our accountability metrics. The cooks froze. The tray runners went still. The only sound was the industrial dishwasher chugging in the background, like it was trying to drown itself. As of tonight, she continued, looking right at me, Karen will no longer be handling prep supervision or menu compliance. She'll be focusing exclusively on dishwashing and post-event breakdowns. The room didn't react at first. They were waiting for the punchline. 12 years of leading prep. 12 years of being the one everyone came to when the meat thermometer glitched or a patient's tray needed to be redone 3 times before breakfast. Gone. Just like that. Megan said it so casually, she might as well have been moving a magnet on the fridge. Then she added the real dig. The part that burned hotter than fryer oil in a dry pan. Also, Karen, you'll be handling banquet breakdown tonight. The volunteer appreciation dinner just wrapped in conference room B. About 150 plates plus silverware, glassware, chafing dishes, linens, and food waste disposal. And just so it's clear going forward, she smiled, a vulture in lip gloss. Every catering order is yours from now on. Not one person moved. I didn't speak. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I just looked down at the gloves in my hand, peeled them off slowly. and walked toward the back room like I'd just been told to take out the trash, not become it. The banquet cleanup wasn't just excessive, it was tactical. Conference room B was a 3-hallway walk from the kitchen. The carts were already loaded, like she'd planned the whole ambush before the huddle. The food trays were stacked with crusted pasta, half-eaten cakes smeared across porcelain, water goblets with greasy fingerprints and lipstick stains. It looked like a wedding reception thrown by drunk toddlers, and I cleaned it alone. I scrubbed every fork. I counted each one. I logged the time I started. 7:18 p.m. Logged again at 8:02. Halfway done. Again at 8:51. Almost finished. But found the salad tongs still sealed in dressing at the bottom of the waste bin. Logged it. Every napkin folded back into the laundry bin. Every broken dish noted. I took photos, time-stamped them on my phone. I even logged the damn water temperature on the final rinse, just in case someone claimed I didn't sanitize correctly. She wanted to humiliate me. Fine. But humiliation's a funny thing. Doesn't always break people. Sometimes it ferments. Turns into something cold. Something calculated. I worked through the pain in my lower back. The ache in my shoulders. The blister forming on my heel from shoes not built for this kind of grind. I scrubbed with a precision that would have made the CDC blush. At 9:43 p.m., I clocked out. Didn't say a word to anyone on my way out. Just past Megan's office window. She was still there, sipping from her glittery water bottle, watching something on her phone, probably congratulating herself. She didn't even look up. But that was okay, because I had everything I needed now. I had motive. I had retaliation. I had documentation. And I had time. You want me in the dish pit, Megan? Good. Let's see what else floats to the surface when things start getting real dirty. It took less than 72 hours for the seams to split. By Wednesday, the kitchen was a war zone with no general. Breakfast trays ran 50 minutes late. Unheard of in a hospital where diabetic patients time their insulin with the reliability of sunrise. The oatmeal was congealed, the toast underdone, and no one could find the low-sodium packets for the cardiac wing. I watched from the dish pit, elbow deep in someone's leftover jello. Megan stood in the center of the tray line, flailing like a cheerleader who'd forgotten the routine. She barked orders at the cooks, double-checked printouts she didn't understand, and kept calling my name before catching herself. Karen wasn't prep anymore. Karen was dishes now, and Karen didn't lift a finger unless it involved soap, steam, or stainless steel. By Thursday, the catering department was bleeding out. Megan had scheduled a lunch drop-off for the oncology department. 30 individually packed trays with dietary codes. She somehow forgot to tag half of them correctly. Vegetarian meals ended up with turkey. One of the gluten-free orders came with a baguette. The admin assistant called Megan directly. And from what I could hear through the break room vents, the conversation was less concerned client and more furious subpoena. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I just wiped down a stack of cafeteria trays and texted myself a copy of the afternoon service complaint email forwarded to my account by a former colleague who still remembered who used to run the ship without letting it sink. Friday brought the first official complaint from a patient's family. Their daughter was on a strict renal diet. Megan had apparently streamlined the printout system, replacing the detailed spreadsheets with color-coded sticky notes. Someone grabbed the wrong shade of green. The girl ended up with a tray full of things she couldn't eat. Cheese, chocolate pudding, sodium bomb of a soup that would have had her kidneys waving the white flag. Again, no harm done. But questions were starting to stack. So was my file. Every time Megan texted me after hours, "Can you remind me how to access the allergen chart?" Or, "Where do we keep the dietary restriction master list?" I screenshotted it. Time-stamped, stored in a locked folder on a cloud account she didn't know existed. Every urgent Slack message she sent, asking if I could just review the weekend schedule to make sure she didn't double-book tray runners, logged. Every time she wandered over and tried to casually ask where the cleaning checklists were kept, I answered like a robot and recorded the time of interaction. She couldn't function without my knowledge. She thought she'd buried me in dishwater, but she was drowning in her own incompetence. By the following Monday, she'd started working open to close. Double shifts, no days off. She was red-eyed, snapping at staff, reeking of burnt coffee and dry shampoo. You could see the pressure eating her from the inside, like a termite infestation behind a Pinterest-painted wall. Meanwhile, I moved through the dish pit like a ghost. Silent, steady, clinical. I took extra care with the cutlery, lining it up perfectly in the rack. Not out of pride, out of strategy. The neater the baseline, the louder the chaos around her looked. Megan tried once, just once, to corner me at the ice machine. "Karen, I just need a little help. I know things have been weird, but I could use your eyes on the new meal flow." I didn't even stop filling the bucket. I just said, "I'm only assigned to dishwashing." "That's what you told HR, right?" She stared at me like I'd slapped her, like she couldn't quite believe I wasn't saving her this time. Because that's the thing with people like Megan. They think competence is a favor. That if you've been holding the whole place together with spit and spreadsheets, it's just part of your personality, that you like it. But I didn't like being needed. I liked being respected. And once that was gone, I owed her nothing. So I let it burn. Quietly, systematically, with the elegance of a clock counting down to detonation. It was 11:42 p.m. when the receipt hit the inbox. I only saw it because I couldn't sleep. Not that sleep was ever easy these days. Too many years on hard floors, too many bones that snapped and crackled when I so much as thought about turning over. I was drinking my usual nighttime tea, some off-brand chamomile that tasted like boiled hay, and scrolling through my work email, the one Megan forgot to revoke access to when she reassigned me to dishwashing duty. Subject line: late night delivery confirmation, invoice attached. I clicked it. The vendor was one I knew well, a third-party caterer we used only in emergencies. But this delivery, it wasn't on any schedule I knew of. 48 individual meal trays, high protein, high sodium, not tagged to any event or unit, just dumped on a Saturday night with no registered intake signature. And guess whose name was printed at the bottom? Mine. Except I wasn't even on the premises. I pulled up the security log for badge access. My keycard hadn't been scanned that entire weekend. Megan's had, twice. She'd used my name again, but this time it wasn't just a paper trail. This time it touched a patient. The alert came through the hospital's internal messaging system Sunday morning. A diabetic patient in 4C had suffered a sugar crash after breakfast. Paramedics weren't needed, but it was enough for a nurse to raise hell. I watched from behind the industrial dishwasher as the unit's floor manager stormed into the kitchen, waving the patient's tray ticket like it was a court summons. Turns out the breakfast had been streamlined by Megan to include a chef's choice muffin that wasn't labeled for carb content. It had frosting. Not sugar-free frosting, real frosting. The kind that sends a glucose monitor into cardiac arrest. The patient was okay. The family? They wanted answers. And suddenly, the Joint Commission poster taped above the sink didn't feel like a decorative threat anymore. It felt like a loaded gun waiting for a trigger. So I pulled one. I opened my personal laptop, covered in grease smudges and passive-aggressive post-its from years past, and began building the packet. Not a complaint. Not a rant. A record. First, the falsified logs. I had screenshots, photos of forged checklists, tray temp recordings, and my name written in a pen I hadn't used in months. Second, the retaliation file. Every time Megan scheduled me for double dish shifts. Every time she denied my request to switch when someone called out sick. Every time she sent out public schedule changes that removed me from all prep duty, but still forgot to update my job description in the system. I logged it all. Third, the safety violations. Timestamps of unlabeled allergens. Incorrect temperature hold logs. Cross-contamination during vegan tray prep. And yes, the exact invoice from that late-night food delivery paired with the badge log that proved I wasn't anywhere near the kitchen when it arrived. Fourth, the messages. Every Slack, every desperate email Megan sent after hours asking for help, while pretending during the day that I was irrelevant. I compiled them chronologically, layered them like bricks in a wall. And lastly, I added my old infection control. Perfect scores. 12 years' worth of spotless audits. Just for contrast. No commentary, no accusations. Just raw data. Names, dates, images, logs. A case that built itself. I zipped the folder and gave it a name. Facility Compliance Concerns, Karen S. Then I did something I'd never done in 12 years. I sent an email directly to someone outside the hospital. A man named Randall Monroe, senior field agent for the Joint Commission. We'd met during an unannounced audit in 2018, when he asked why our sanitizing station was the only one in the district that exceeded state guidelines. I told him, because MRSA doesn't care about minimums. He'd laughed. That laugh saved my contact card in his phone. I didn't ask for anything. I just wrote, for your awareness, documentation attached. Let me know if further clarification is needed. Then I clicked send and closed the laptop. No heart racing, no second guessing. The game was no longer personal. It was procedural, and I was done playing small. Randall picked up on the third ring. His voice was groggy but alert, the kind of a tone that said he was either mid-poker game or halfway through a bad diner meatloaf, and either way didn't answer calls this late unless they mattered. Karen, he said, like he already knew. You okay? I didn't waste time. Hypothetical for you? He gave a soft grunt, which in Randall speak meant proceed. Let's say a hospital kitchen started logging food taps that weren't taken. Let's say patient dietary restrictions were ignored or mislabeled repeatedly. Let's say cleaning protocols were falsified, allergens crossed, and that multiple reports bore staff signatures they didn't actually sign. Silence. I imagined him sitting at some motel desk with his tie undone and a notebook already in his lap. Would that be enough? I asked. To trigger a site investigation? He didn't speak for a full 5 seconds. Then, Karen, if we saw half of that, we'd shut the kitchen down before breakfast service. That was all I needed. I didn't explain the rest. Didn't tell him how Megan had turned safety into theatre. How she wielded buzzwords like efficiency and innovation, while patients received meals that could kill them. How she forged, scapegoated, retaliated, and smiled the whole time like she was starring in a training video. I didn't need to explain. The file would speak for itself. So, I said, you'll get an email tonight, anonymous. Just check your inbox. He didn't ask why. He just said, copy that, and hung up. I opened a new burner email account, routed through a VPN, just in case the hospital's IT department got curious. I attached the packet. No message body, no subject line, just data, cold and clear. I hovered for a second, then hit send. 12 years of compliance. 12 years of holding the line. I just lit the fuse on every lie Megan ever filed under Karen will handle it. The response was faster than I expected. The very next morning, everyone was scrambling. The administrator walked into the kitchen with a clipboard and the kind of the smile people wear when the IRS knocks on their door. Just a heads up, he said too loudly. We've got a surprise site inspection this week. Megan looked up from her desk, eyes wide, hand frozen mid-email. Joint Commission? She asked, voice shrill. He nodded. Yeah, apparently someone flagged a few irregularities. Random audit. Could be tomorrow, could be Friday. You know how they are. I watched the blood drain from Megan's face like someone had pulled a plug at the base of her skull. The staff started whispering. One of the cooks muttered, "That's not good." Another said, "Guess we should actually clean now." Megan tried to rally. "Okay, let's all stay calm. I'll update the logs." And Karen, she stopped because I wasn't standing behind her. I was standing by the dish pit, still assigned, still forgotten, still invisible. But not for long. She started barking orders, pacing the kitchen like she could manifest order through sheer panic. Sanitizer buckets were dumped and remixed. Logs were reconstructed. Temp checks were double-dipped and re-recorded. It was a flurry of nervous activity wrapped in denial. But no amount of scrambling was going to fix the kind of rot buried in those files. That night, I sat in my car after shift with the windows down, letting the cool air wash the steam off my skin. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done. I'd warned her quietly, professionally, more times than I could count. But some people don't hear warnings. They only hear sirens. And they were coming. They showed up just after 9:00 a.m. 2 men and 1 woman in navy blazers, badges clipped like little brass guillotines to their belts. No warning. No call. No calendar invite. Just the quiet, surgical precision of professionals who knew exactly where the bodies were buried and how to dig fast. They walked in through the side entrance of the kitchen like they owned it. Because for the next several hours, they did. The woman introduced herself as Laura Benning, lead auditor. She didn't shake hands, she didn't smile. Just flashed a thin badge, and asked to see the week's cleaning logs. Megan was mid-meeting with a dietitian when they arrived. I watched from the corner of the dish pit as her face turned to ash. She tried to salvage it, of course. Puffed herself up like a dollar store defense attorney. "Oh, yes, we were expecting you eventually. Just not today. We'll get everything printed. Karen, can you—" Laura cut her off. "We'll collect documents ourselves." I didn't move. Just kept drying a stack of mixing bowls slower than usual. Within minutes, the audit began. Every cabinet was opened, every log pulled, every sanitizer bucket tested. Tray tickets were reviewed, allergen codes cross-referenced. They even checked the fridge compressor and pulled random temperature logs from last month. One of them stood in the corner reading trade documentation aloud with the same tone you'd use to narrate a crime scene report. I was told politely to wait outside the kitchen. So I did. I poured myself a cup of burnt coffee from the volunteer lounge, found a seat in the hallway just out of earshot, and watched through the observation window. Megan was circling like a shark with a limp, papers in hand, hair unraveling, trying to steer the inspectors with chirpy nonsense like, "Oh, that log must have been misplaced," and "We recently updated our protocols." She didn't realize they weren't listening. Not to her anyway, because what they were listening to was the evidence. And it was screaming. I sipped my coffee and waited. By 10:12, they'd already flagged multiple violations. The allergen station was missing 3 labels. The temperature logs for 2 consecutive days were identical down to the degree, despite completely different menus. Cleaning sign-offs were forged. One inspector pulled a food tray, wiped the underside with a sterile swab, and muttered, "This hasn't been cleaned in days." Megan kept blaming process changes and systemic miscommunications. Her voice cracked twice. Mascara had begun a slow descent into raccoon territory. Someone from administration arrived, then HR, then the director himself, looking like he'd walked into his own funeral. At 11:23, Monica from HR came to find me. She didn't smile either. "Karen," she said quietly, "do you have a moment to speak with us in the conference room?" I followed her without a word. The walk was silent, except for the distant hum of tension bleeding through the floor tiles. Inside the conference room sat 3 people. Monica, the director, and a compliance officer I didn't recognize. They gestured to a seat. I didn't take it. Instead, I pulled the folder from my tote bag. Hard copy, because I knew they'd ask for it eventually, and placed it gently on the table. No dramatics, no speeches. "Everything's in there," I said. "Logs, screenshots, communications, delivery receipts, retaliatory scheduling. I suggest you start with the peanut glaze incident." Monica opened it slowly, like she already knew she wasn't going to like what she saw. The director's hands trembled slightly as he turned the first page. I stood there while they read. Nobody interrupted. Nobody blinked. After a few minutes, I finally spoke. "I'm not here for apologies. I'm not here to be reinstated." The compliance officer cleared his throat. "We appreciate your candor and your diligence. This will trigger a formal review process." I nodded once. Monica tried to look me in the eye. She couldn't. "You could have come to us sooner," she said. I gave her the kind of smile you save for people who never locked the gate and are surprised the fox got in. "I did," I said. "You just didn't listen." Then I walked out. The kitchen had gone silent. Megan was no longer at the center. She was in the corner now, shoulders hunched, staring at her phone like it might summon an escape hatch. The inspectors were speaking quietly to each other, writing things down, nodding slowly. Something was ending. Not for me. For them. They posted the shutdown notice just after 4:00 p.m. A stark laminated sign slapped on the kitchen's swinging doors like a quarantine warning in a disaster movie. Food services temporarily suspended pending full compliant review. All patient meal distribution has been transferred to partner facilities. It was the administrative equivalent of yellow caution tape wrapped around a crime scene. And in a way, that's exactly what it was. The inspectors didn't say much after that. They just collected their files, shook hands with the compliance team, and walked out like surgeons, all leaving a body on the table. The hospital board called an emergency meeting that night. They sent out the memo full of reassessment periods and quality control restructuring, and the usual hollow jargon they pump into the air when they're trying to pretend the building isn't on fire. But the smoke was visible from every hallway. Word spread like spilled soup in a psych ward. First, the nurses found out. Then the families. Then the union reps. Patients with critical diets were being wheeled out one by one. Waiting ambulances headed for facilities that could feed them without risking lawsuits or insulin crashes. The entire West Wing got shut down the next morning. Staff were reassigned. Overtime was cancelled. Department heads started avoiding eye contact in the break room. And Megan? Suspended, effective immediately. The email was brief. Due to procedural violations currently under review, Megan Kay has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. No one replied to it. No one needed to. By Thursday, they called me into HR again. Different tone this time, softer. A box of tissues awkwardly placed on the table like someone had Googled how to apologize to an employee you treated like garbage for 6 months. And took notes. We recognize now that certain decisions were made without proper oversight, Monica said, and that you were subjected to unjust retaliation. I just waited. The director cleared his throat. We'd like to formally offer you your previous role with a title bump and compensation retroactive to the date of your reassignment. He slid a letter across the table. It had all the right words: reinstatement, apology. Even a little line about recognizing your contributions to food safety protocols. Probably written by a lawyer with a guilty conscience and a deadline. I read it carefully, then folded it in half and set it down. No, I said. Silence. You're declining? Monica asked, her voice thin. I'm done, I said. 12 years was enough. But we've taken corrective so late, I said. Not unkindly, just factually. They didn't fight me. They just nodded quietly, stunned, like people watching the last bus leave a dying town. My final shift was unceremonious. I clocked in, turned in my badge, and cleaned out the drawer with my name written on masking tape, now faded and peeling. Then I took one last walk through the kitchen. The lights were dimmed. The prep stations were bare. The industrial dishwasher hissed in the back, where steam rose like guilt trying to evaporate. Megan was in there. She didn't see me at first, too busy scrubbing trays, her sleeves rolled up, hair tied back in a messy knot. No clipboard, no tablet, just a rag in her hand and a pile of congealed failure in front of her. She looked up for 1 second. We locked eyes. I didn't speak, didn't smirk. I just reached behind my back, untied my apron, and walked it over to the trash can. Dropped it in. It landed with a soft, final thunk. Then I turned, walked past the freezer door one last time, and stepped out into the hallway, where the silence didn't echo anymore. No applause, no confetti, just the clean, quiet rhythm of shoes on tile. Outside, the air smelled like rain. Not redemption, just something clean. And I didn't look back. You're either real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.